We role play open people walking into an open house every single day in the mornings now. And what we do is whoever was a conversation that one of us failed on and couldn't pull the phone number from, next morning we bring that conversation. We are that guest walking into the open house on Zoom,
I
and we're
love
gonna have
that.
another agent go and break it down, see if they could get the phone number. If not, okay, we'll figure out what we could do collectively so that we could fix that conversation. Since we started doing that, everyone, it's hilarious. They'll come back literally like it seems like it's almost the next day. An agent will be like, "Hey, I pulled a lead. It was the conversation we rehearsed this morning or talked about yesterday. I just pulled a lead because we had that conversation."
All right, folks, we are back. A little bit of a hiatus, because of the Thanksgiving holiday, but we're back here in the group. I love bringing people, practitioners from the industry that are doing interesting things in the marketing space, lead generation space, lead conversion space, and you're in for a treat today. This is a really interesting, person with a great story to tell us. This is Peyson Robertson out of Palm Springs, California. And, I ran into him in another Facebook group because he was talking about a little, I don't want to, if you want to call it an experiment or a project that he took up over the summer of doing 100 open houses in 100 days. And that's a catchy title. That's a whole course right there, right? That's not like a training virtual program. How to do 100 open
It
houses in
totally
100
could
days.
be.
100%, right? This is episode 1. This is the intro. This is the episode 0, right, of the training course. 100 open houses in 100 days. And Payson, correct me if I'm wrong. Looks like so far from that effort, you guys have done at least 15 transactions from those leads from that effort in the second
Yep.
half of 2023, which is
Right.
really impressive, man. This has not been an easy 6 months in real estate. People, if you've been watching at home, probably. I'm going to tell. I've been in the business for a long time, since 2010. This is probably the worst 6-month stretch I've seen since 2010. To be really honest with you, right? Transaction count, the uncertainty, recession fears, all these things, right? For you to go out and do this and get results with that kind of a lead generation strategy is really impressive to me, Payson. But let's start at the beginning, Payson. So tell the audience who you are, how'd you get into real estate, and then let's segue into why 100 open houses in 100 days. Go for it.
So I got into real estate. I saw a video about apartment investing back when I was 16 years old. That's what got me initially into real estate. Wanted to buy apartments. I was set on that literally from like that day. And I've started to work on stuff towards that. But right after high school, I was like, well, I have no money to buy apartments. I was watching another video from another guy, and he said he made $150,000 selling a house. And then obviously it's not as near as easy as that. And I've since learned that over the past 3+ years. But literally that the second I saw the $150,000 commission check that this guy made on YouTube, I bought the coursework that day, which was my birthday. I was turning 18 that day. No, 19 that day. And then I finished the coursework in a week, and then the rest is kind of the history.
Wow.
But I was like, I
You
just knew right
booked
then
it.
and there.
You were booking it to
Yeah.
get that license. Holy cow.
Yeah, I just wanted the license. So I got started August of 2020, right in the middle of COVID. Um,
Wow.
so it was an interesting time. So that's even one thing it's funny, before leading up to this whole open house thing that I did in December, January 21, heading into 2022, like I had done great my first 2 years, um, considering where I started from and everything. And then all of a sudden everything slumped. And I was like, am I in the right business? Like, and my lender and I, who is now my best friend, we both were debating leaving the industry, going into some type of other sales. And we were doing the math on what's the fastest way to make $1 million+ a year, and what's the fastest way to go and be able to buy real estate, because that's what we both want to do. So we ended up doing the math, and we're like, okay, this market, maybe it sucks right now, but we just need to double down. And the reason why I decided that was I had met with someone. Him and his team had done more transactions this January than they did last January. And that's when it was kind of like, wait, if they could do more, and they're a massive team and they're not doing less, why can't I do more?
100%.
And so that was kind of what started it all. And then ended up coming across this video on doing 30 open houses in 30 days from Kyle Whistle. And he's like, you should be able to get one transaction out of it. So we started, and we're just like, all right, we're going to just shoot for just as many open houses as we could humanly do, basically.
Love
And that's what turned it into what it is now. And now we still do them, literally 2 today. And we started it beginning of June.
Holy cow. So from June, so June through, we're basically in December, recording this, right? Basically a day before December 2023, 6 full months. You started in June.
Yeah.
That's 6 full months you guys have been at this. And you haven't stopped actually. You didn't stop. There was
No.
like 100 and then you're kind of done. It was like 100 open houses. So you saw what Kyle was doing and you go, I'm going to 3X that because maybe that worked in 2022. This is 2023, baby. This is like, slump on steroids. You tripled up the project at first. And tell me about your team. Is it yourself, other agents? What's your team look like right now?
Yeah, so when I moved brokerages, I started a team. So I started the team the same month that I would start this open house thing. So we started the team in June. There's 3 of us in June. There's 10 of us now. So it's myself, an admin, and then 8 agents. And most of our lead generation and pretty much entirely is through open houses across the board.
Love it. Love it. Love
So,
it. I love that because that's such a smart way to build a team, right? It's like, you want more deals? I'll teach you what you have to do. Now you got to get out there and put in some, again, it's nice weather in Palm Springs. You can't complain that bad, right? Especially right now. It's supposed to be the best time of year.
Go back to when we started, though. It was 115, 120 degrees outside, and we still were doing it every day. We would just have to bring a change of clothes to set up signs, because by the time we were done setting up signs, our hair would be messed up, soaked. Yeah, soaked. So definitely, I would say no excuses during the summer, because we were sweating, literally setting up, taking down signs. The house would be extremely hot because people would turn off if they were vacant houses, the house would be 100 degrees. We'd be trying to cool it down to, at least 80, and 80 is still hot in a house. Yeah. So, but it ended up turning into this thing. Reason why we continued to follow with it is because in July. So June, I was slow. I didn't have a single escrow in June. July, I had 10 escrows.
So I love that, because number one, that is the best motivator. Let's not mince words here. The best ideas, the biggest projects, the biggest hustle that I see with agents is not what they have 10, 20 deals in escrow. That's usually, again, maybe like Elon Musk size ambition. That doesn't motivate you. For most agents, like, I'm cruising. This is all I need to do. No. It's usually when you're not in that situation, the creative juices come out, right? That the motivation and the drive to do these big projects comes out, because your back's to the wall. It's either sink or swim, and you're not going to sink, right? It's like, hey, let's see how far we can go. I love that situation. That's personally when I've had my best breakthroughs, my best outcomes, for my company, Power ISA, has been not when times are great. I'll be honest with people. It's been when times are not great and you're trying something different. You're trying something, something more. So early on, there's 3 agents working with you, right? So, I mean, what did you guys like divide and conquer, go to different, or did you target like all in one certain neighborhood, or wherever you could find them?
No, at first it's just wherever we could find them. So at first it's just like, hey, whatever agent, it didn't matter if they were with us, because I had a listing that I was sitting myself. That was my listing. And then the 2 agents that were with me, we just had to find them. And our brokerage at the time didn't have as big of a blueprint where we're at currently, which is funny, but it didn't. So because of that, we just had to ask every single agent that would allow that, until we found someone that would allow us to. Now going in the future, now we have like 30 plus agents that every time they get a new listing, they call the team and they're like, can you please sit open houses for us? Now it's easy. It took us all
6 months
asking. Yeah. So, but at first, it was just sit whatever we can. Now we're more strategic about it. So now, like, when someone joins the team, we sit down and we help them create like a buyer profile, essentially, of who their ideal buyer is and what area of our desert they know the best. And that's where they sit. And we don't tell them to differ or change from that, because you want to obviously be the market expert and you want to talk to people that also want to talk to you. In the beginning, I would sit some stuff. Actually, before I started this whole thing, I tried sitting open houses and these $3 million houses, and the average person that walked in was probably 75 years old. They were not my people at all. And I don't think I pulled a single lead from it, but I was just hoping. Yeah. And so as soon as I switched it up, I got smart about where I sat, and I'm sitting I live in North Indio, specifically in the Palm Springs area. I sit North Indio because I've lived in pretty much every community thanks to my parents growing up.
Love
And
it.
I've now sold in pretty much every community. And so I know I know pretty much every single floor plan. I know the HOAs and what they cost. I know the type of people that live in every single community. I know the benefits of one versus the other, if one has Melrose, whatnot. So I could just start spitfiring the stuff off in an open house. So people instantly know, okay, this guy's not just some random guy sitting in an open house here today. He really knows what he's talking about.
Because you were that guy before. You were in the wrong place, wrong guy, wrong demographic. You were sitting in open house to sit one. And,
Yep.
surprise, surprise, you didn't get the results that you wanted. I love that, nugget. I think that's worth the price of admission to this, interview. I see a lot of agents that try open houses. And when they try, I mean like 2 or 3 a month, because they seem to think they can only happen on Saturday and Sunday afternoons, only have to be either their own listing or their friend's listing. And they don't get the results that they want, right? Like, hey, I've done open houses. Open houses are the worst. No one walks in. The ones that do already have an agent. I mean, I hear all these objections, Peyson, to people just saying that open houses are not great. You already gave us the solution to one of those problems, which is, hey, put yourself in a position to win, okay? Because I got a lot, when I was an active agent, 3 years, over 100 transactions, open houses were great for me, right? I'm not gonna lie, I didn't sit them every weekend, but when I went there, I probably have never been to an open house that I didn't get at least one solid lead from, like one person that I could call that the day, the next day, the next week, right? At least one. And it was because of what you just said, actually. I only ever sat open houses that were near my brokerage, my office. So I knew that area forwards and backwards. I was from the area, same thing, right? So I hadn't really laid it out as clearly as you did. But I'm like, that makes a lot. No wonder I was able to impress these people. I was able to impress people. When I started, I was, early 30s when I started in real estate, not, late, early 20s, early 30s. But my clientele was late 20s, early 30s. So I kind of fit right in with them, right? There's a lot of new construction. Because I'd been a home buyer a few years before of new construction, I knew these builders inside and out. I knew these neighborhoods inside and out. I could talk about the quality of some of these finishes. And I'm not a construction guy at all, right? But I geek out when I'm going to make a, $500,000 purchase, right? So I'm like, yeah, let's figure this out. And I'm one of those guys. Right. So I was able to impress them. So my question for you is, Peyson, number one, put yourself in a position to win. But think about those things. Figure that out. Don't be the 20-year-old agent in the retirement community. Probably, again, maybe you're super personal. You love talking to old people. Maybe, but you're probably not going to be a great fit. You're not going to inspire a ton of confidence. You're not going to impress. It's going to be much harder to impress these people. You're sitting in an open house. How do you make sure you're impressing these folks? Is it a script you guys teach the members of your team? Is it the setup? How do you make sure? Because it's not just sitting in the open house. You already told us that. It's not just that.
I would say
very ignorant about it.
Right. That's the thing. It's so funny because I watch other people now try and copy us in our market. They'll do it for like a week and then they quit. I'll notice because I'll see it on their social media, then they'll quit. And I'm assuming it's because they're not getting the results that we're getting. We role play people walking into an open house every single day in the mornings now. And what we do is whoever was a conversation that one of us failed on and couldn't pull the phone number from, next morning we bring that conversation. We are that guest walking into the open house on Zoom. We're going to have another agent go and break it down, see if they could get the phone number. If not, okay, we'll figure out what we could do collectively. So that we could fix that conversation. Since we started doing that, it's hilarious. They'll come back literally it seems like it's almost the next day. An agent will be like, hey, I pulled a lead. It was the conversation we rehearsed this morning or talked about yesterday. I just pulled a lead because we had that conversation. So what we're doing is we're mimicking what guests would act like because we've now sat so many, so we know exactly what they're going to say or what they're going to do. The thing is we really try and emphasize we're in an open house and we're using it essentially as a buyer consultation. It's not to sell the house that we're in. So we'll use the house. We'll be because a lot of people come from our open house site. So we always like to ask people as soon as they walk in, are you coming from Zillow or Realtor.com or are you coming from our open house sites? And then if we know they're coming from open house signs, they're not going to know anything about the house. So we're like, hey, this is a 3-bedroom house. Is that what you're looking for? Oh, no, I'm not looking for a 3-bedroom. I'm looking for a 4-bedroom. okay, well that completely and I'll tell them like, okay, that completely probably rules out this house for you then. And I'll say, hey, but I do know of houses right across the street in this neighborhood, Haciendas. They have four bedrooms and they're 1,800 square feet and they're priced at 500,000. This is priced at 649. Is that something that'd be ideal for you? Of course, they're going to say yes. Of course, price difference, bedrooms is better. Okay, I have then lists of homes prepared for those people based on what general ideas of what people
Oh,
would
so you
like.
got these, these are already printed out, ready to hand off. Are you guys you're already
Not
locked and
printed
loaded?
out. So it's links and I just saved in notes because
Got it, got
we
it,
want
got
the
it.
phone number. So we're like, hey, we'll
Ah,
text you. So then it's, hey, we'll text you. So we send them the link over. Now we have their phone number. And so we just continue the conversation to really understand what they're looking for. And then as soon as they leave, we send them a video of us, not on BombBomb, not anything fancy, because I tried it and I stopped doing it. I literally just send a video with the iPhone video and I just like recap, hey, this is Peyson. Great to meet you at the open house today. Just to recap, this is what you're looking for. This is what I would recommend next steps be. Here, go ahead and let me know if you have any questions based on those homes that I sent you. If you want to set up showing, whatever it is. So that way they then have a video of me. So that way they obviously remember exactly who I am. And then I just start following up with them relentlessly until they're ready to do something. So, but basically everything we do inside of the open house is finding a way to send them a text. So like if people,
I
well,
love
if it gets
that.
to the point where we're asking them about financing, I always like to assume, oh, like, would you guys be purchasing this home cash? Because then it makes everyone feel better that they're like, oh, you'd think I could afford a house cash. Thank you. So I always say that they're like, no, we need financing and we haven't talked to someone yet. And I'm like, oh, great. I have this amazing lender that I love to death. Like he's who my clients use every single time. I never deter from him. Like this is the guy you have to work with. Like if you want to talk to anyone and you don't have to submit any documents to him. You don't have to, you don't have to go all in. Just sit down and have a conversation with him. And I'm like, and they'll be like, okay, that sounds great. I'm like, okay, if it's okay with you, I'll put us in a group chat with him. So that way you guys could set up a time that mutually works with both of you for a conversation. How does that sound? Then they give us the phone number. So then we have the phone number that way. And the lender one works great because then he goes, has his full consultation with them, gets them approved. And then he will call me and he's like, all right, they're approved for this. They're ready to go. They want to start going on showings now. So because I've already gotten enough info from them and then he's gotten enough info from them, we don't need to go and do another buyer consult because we have everything we need to know and they're ready to look.
I love that.
So that's
So
how
yeah,
we
yeah, that's amazing, Payson, because you guys simplified that buyer consultation by, hey, the open house is a buyer consultation. I get we're face to face. You're something brought you through the door. Let's talk about what it is you need, and you guys go to it coming into what persona does this person fit into? If they're coming for specifically the home, I love that question because I think some agents are even kind of clueless on how people do open houses nowadays, right? If they are more serious shoppers, of course they're going to go on the apps. Zillow, they're going to go, hey, filter out where are the open houses right now. Saturday, let's hit our open houses. Boom. Is the home that we like open today? Let's take a look. Let's go take a look. Right, boom. Let's go for it. And I think that's a very different profile of buyer than the, hey, we're driving around. I saw a Payson sign. Let's go take a look and see what's out there. Right. Completely different scenario. And I think most agents don't realize that. I honestly, I really feel that people don't think about it to that level of detail. And then the other thing you said, which I think was gold, we're going to clip that 100%, video editor, check that out. What's the best way to ask for a phone number from an open house lead is don't ask for the phone number. That's the best way to ask for it. All right. Like, and it feels like me because we do a lot of calling, for real estate agents. The best way to ask for the email is not to ask for the email. It's like, hey, do you want this really awesome thing? Great. What's the best email to send that to? Because we're not asking for the email. You want the thing, right? The email is the byproduct of getting it to you, right? But the valuable thing I'm going to give you is worth that price of admission. And you think, yes, it is for sure. We're doing a transaction, right? Too many agents feel so. Let me tell you the classic. Tell me if you agree with this. The classic school of open house prospecting, open house lead generation is go find an open house on a weekend, Saturday or Sunday, at your own listing, your team's listing. Go sit on it, be nice to people, be a house greeter, essentially, and wait and see if anybody has any questions. That is the old school, classic, standard, very passive open house
Right.
strategy that I see people fail at and fail at and fail at, you know, like try it for a week and it doesn't work. Well, of course you're not going to, you're not going to do that for a whole week, because you're going to get zero out of that in the whole week.
Yeah, we're running at the door. Or as soon as we see someone coming up, we're running at the door, and we'll slowly move with them so that way they don't just instantly run through the house. So like we're literally walking to the door, we're greeting them, asking if it's saw us from a sign or saw us from Zillow Realtor.com. Then we'll ask, like, so one house I usually sit that I'm sitting today after this is it's either going to be a primary residence or it's going to be a short-term rental. So I'll ask people, okay, are you looking for a home to live in, or are you looking for a short-term rental? Oh, we're looking for a home to live in. I will then explain, because that neighborhood in specific has a way higher price per square foot because it's the only one in this area that allows for vacation rentals. So I tell people, hey, look, this is a great home. It's beautiful. I'm sure you're going to see it. But if you're looking for something to live in, you could probably get something for a better price, or get more bedrooms, or get more square footage if you look at another one. And then I'll go into the same thing with the links that I have. And then people don't feel like I'm trying to sell them on the house that I'm in, because I feel like that's always the thing. Because, you know, usually even myself, when I first started doing open houses, it was like, hey, my name's Peyson. Thanks for coming into the open house. This is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. It has a pool in the backyard. It's priced at $649,000. It's 1,300 square feet. And then you're like, go ahead and take a look around and let me know if you have any questions. That's usually like the spiel, pretty much.
It must be written somewhere, right? Because that's what everybody does.
And then if you give them all that, then they don't care. They're going to take a look at the house, say, hey, this doesn't work for me. Thank you. Bye. And then you're done. You maybe hand them the card. And if you hand them the card, you lost. Like if you have to hand them your card or any type of flyer, like we don't try and hand them anything in person. Everything is like, hey, we could send this to you. Everything is, we could send this to you. So like we have property flyers. I have my cards out. And we even have a sign-in sheet, but we don't ask for people to sign in. We just have it there because sometimes it's hilarious. People will just start writing their contact info down. It's the most simple thing. And the other thing that people always ask, we never ask if they have an agent. If they have an agent, they will tell us.
Got it.
So we never ask, because if you ask them if they have an agent, it is the easiest cop out for them to just say, yeah, I have an agent, even if they don't. And now you just lost. There's no recovering from that.
I got you. You're giving them an out. You're giving them an out.
Yes, you're giving them a way to say, yeah, sorry, like I'm already working with someone, even if they're not working with someone. So we never ask. If they have someone, they'll say, hey, I'm already working with an agent. Okay, no problem. And we'll let them do their thing. I'm not going to impose on another agent's work. So, but I never ask. Like, I'm never like, hey, are you working with an agent? And it was funny because I have a friend that works in the San Diego market. And after hearing that from me, he went from converting no leads in open houses to, I think he closed one within like 30 days after that for like 1.8 million in volume, solely because he stopped asking people if they had an agent.
Because you're right. I mean, and one thing, Payson, I think people need to adapt, because the consumer is way more savvy than some of these scripts from the 80s and 90s, right? You cannot go in there, with the same script, the same objection handler, the same approach than when there were no houses online, right? But when the agent was the sole provider of information, back in the, I mean, this is like back in the day, people couldn't even find homes, anywhere. They had to go to real estate agents. So that approach, the passive approach, is I have all the listings in my back pocket. You got to come through me if you want. I'm just going to wait here and wait for you to ask me. That's no longer the case, right? That just doesn't exist anymore. You got to go out there. And I love the approach you have. The approach you've got in every aspect of your process. Value first. How instead of how quickly can I set the appointment? How quickly can I get their phone number? No. It's how quickly can I add value to this random person that walked into my house, right? How quickly can I add value? I don't know if you phrase it that way, but that's what you're telling me right now. It's like, how quickly can you give them an insight and teach them something they don't know? And I absolutely love it. Any way an agent tries to do that, there's many ways to do it. You're giving me a great example of, you need to find out what's your in, what's the angle, what is something you can add value for them, teach them something they don't know. I absolutely love that, because that's going to set you apart from about 99.9% of the agents out there. No offense, I love you guys, right? I'm an agent too, but we typically don't think that way. It's like, hey, what's in it for me? When do you want to go see homes? Are you pre-approved? Like, are you like ready to go right now? Or you're not? Okay, well, here's my card. right? The very passive approach, hitting my card.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. Like a 50-year-old agent once told me this. It was like a decade ago. And he's like, I don't even carry business cards. Like, why? I was, clueless. Why not? I mean, how are you going to tell people to follow up with you? Well, I just ask them for their number. Like, I forgot my business card. What's the number for me to call you? Whatever conversation it was, right? When it came to like the passive, give me the card, I don't know. The other way around. What's the best number for you? And he would put it in his phone, like right then and there. And I was like, I just completely blew my mind. I'm like, what a smart way to do it. Like, yeah, because the card, again, from the back in the day, when the agent, you had to go reach out to the agent to find out anything. Not the case. It's too easy to ignore.
They don't need. Everyone has Zillow on their phone these days. Every single person has Zillow on their phone. So
100%.
You have to find something that they don't know about, and you have to find, like you said, you have to find a way to add value. So if it's, hey, they're looking for 4-bedroom houses in this area, and you happen to know of an off-market one that's coming on the market soon. Hey, I have something coming up. I've done that a gazillion times. Like there's so many different ways to go about it, but you just have to listen. It's all about listening to what they want and need in something. And then you could use the home you're sitting in to help figure that out. Like where it's like, hey, this is 3 bedrooms. Is that what you're looking for? Hey, this has a pool. Do you want a pool? This is 1,300 square feet, or this is priced at 629,000. Is that in your price range, or is that where you'd like to be? Then if you just shut up, they'll just start talking. And then before you know it, they're like, they leave the open house and they're like, wow, this guy was amazing. I had one lady, she left and she's like, I'm firing my agent. And as she walked out, because we had such a great conversation.
100% value. Whereas, I'll be honest, a lot of agents don't think that way. It's all about, like chatting them up, being nice, being friendly. Again, that can get you far in this business. I'm not gonna say it can't. But when you're up against an agent that is value first, has a great offer, is going to make it very enticing to work with them, good luck with that, right? Because that's going to set you apart in almost all instances. So Peyson, let's go back to, let's get more tactical than strategic, right? More tactical. When we're talking about setting up the open house and tearing down the open house afterwards, what is that? Do you guys have I'm guessing you guys have a process for that too, because
we have a process.
You expect people to show up because of your signs. So I'm guessing you don't do the typical 3 signs, right? A lot of agents do. They'll put one in the door, one in the corner, and then one in the intersection. There's 3 signs total.
No.
I'm guessing you guys do something different. What's your setup process like?
So we have a whole open house checklist that I wouldn't mind sharing with everyone if I can somehow do that for you guys. But so basically we always set up all of our open houses for the week, the Saturday before. So that way, starting Monday, it's already been on for 48 hours and all the way through. And then it goes all the way goes through next Sunday. And then we do the same thing. And the way we set them up, so we set them up 48 hours before. We obviously make sure they're in an area that you fully understand, that you want to be in, that you like the people that are in that, and that they get along with you. So you have to make sure that you're in a good area. We then have an open house checklist. And one of the things that we do, so one thing is posting on our Instagram and Facebook stories about the open house coming up. Like if you went to my Instagram right now, I have all of them on there already. I then even usually will jump on my story. I'll pull out my phone and I'll literally just start talking to my story. And I'll start telling people about what we're doing or what's going on, so that way people can see who I am. On top of that, we cold call the neighborhood beforehand, and we like to invite people to the open house. It's not so that way they even come to the open house. It's so that way we could spark a conversation. And it's a good way of having a conversation without saying, hey, do you want a home estimate? Or, hey, do you want to sell your house? So people don't feel like they're being like pushed on in any way. It's just like, hey, do you want to come check out our open house? And then a lot of people will start to have a conversation with you from there. So that's a good way of just getting out there. It's a good way of just using your open house as another way to drive.
So that is something, I don't even think like the Keller Williams 7-level open house. I don't think they even have that. I don't think they have like prospecting the neighborhood, not by door knocking. By picking up the most efficient way to prospect is the phone, right? So how do you do that? Is that like you guys do like Mojo or Red X, or what system?
Yeah, so we're using Mojo Dialer, the triple line dialer with the neighborhood search. So we'll just do the free form plot around whatever the neighborhood is, and then we call it. And we'll call it a few times because we're usually sitting in the same house 7+ days in a row. So we'll call it a few times. So that way we could get a hold of everyone. Because obviously day 1, you're not going to get a hold of everyone. Day 2, you're not going to get a hold of everyone. Day 3. So we'll just call until we pretty much get a hold of everyone we possibly can.
Got it.
And so we have that. Social media is the huge piece, because obviously every perspective is everything to everyone. Clientele, they don't understand really the difference between a house going under contract post and you sitting at an open house every day. If you're posting that you're doing an open house every day, they're going to think you're busy as all heck. And
Yeah.
I've witnessed it.
Love it.
So I've gotten more agent referrals and more SOI referrals this year from just posting on my story than I ever have before. And it's all because I just post about being at an open house every single day.
I love that.
So that
I
part's
love that.
essential. And then from there, it's making sure it's on for at least 48 hours. And then open house signs, we use big A-frame signs. So they're 36 by 24 inches. I custom design them. They have massive arrows on them. So that way people could see them even from driving quite a distance in the back. I hate the tiny ones. When I'm driving around town and I see other agents sitting them and they have these little signs, and by the time you get up to it, you still can't read it, then it just doesn't work. So for me, I have to have something that's big so that way people can see it and actually like know that, okay, this is an open house coming up. I need to get into the other lane so that way I could go and check out the house. So we use 6 to 10 A-frames. If I could use more, I would use more, but my car fits 7 A-frames. So I use 7 A-frames and then
that size.
Yeah, of that size because they're massive. So I use 7 A-frames and then I'll always have the stake sign so that way I can stake in extra places if I need to. And we'll have up to 15 of those extra because those are much more condensed and flat. So, but the A-frames are the most important piece and it's where we drive a lot of our traffic. So even I would never recommend it, but there's been some times where like I've sat an open house for another agent and they forgot to put it on the MLS and I was too busy to check. And so that day I get there, I do the open house and I realize every person I'm talking to is only coming from open house signs and no one's coming from Zillow or anything. I go to check on the MLS. It's not there. So, but it's still working because my open house signs are good enough at directing people and they're big enough to where more people are catching them. So people are still coming in. So they're big enough to where it still draws people in regardless, but you want to have both. I definitely don't forget to check like I have a few times. Make sure you're doing both so that way you get everyone in possible. So, but open house signs are essential. Like it literally that's completely what changed our business. In the first 30 days that I started doing this with the signs, I had a couple come in that wasn't shopping for a home at all, ended up coming in. I called them about a week later asking for feedback on the home, and they ended up coming back, listing their house with me and buying another house in the next 30 days after. And after that, I was sold.
So you really went from, because I was going to ask you, how long do you usually wait to see results from activities like this? You went from having no one in the pipeline June 1st to by July 30th, you said you had 10 deals in the pipeline. Like, not like, coming up like in escrow or being listed or active buyers out there.
No, there was 10 in escrow in July.
Wow.
And I remember thinking like, whoa, like everything just changed. Like I was like, I was then running around like a chicken with my head cut off all of a sudden. And just a few months before that, I was literally debating quitting. Like I had only up until June, I'd only closed 2 transactions.
Wow. So you blew it open within a few weeks, it seems, right? You saw a difference, you saw activity, you saw things really, really happening. So man, that is such a game changer kind of activity, kind of a thing. And so we talked about the setup, the lead up to the open house. We talked about the scripting and the general approach within the open house. What's the post open house activities? You already mentioned one. You're following up with these leads, at least asking them for feedback. You've got a lot of, do you guys have like a goal of how many numbers you're going to get at an open house on per day, per house? Do you have anything like that? Or is that
we try and get it? So, I mean, it's as many as we could get, but I mean, we always try and aim for at least 7 to 14 phone numbers in a week. That's usually our goal, is at least 7 to 14. I don't know. I've heard of other areas being a lot busier. We have days right now where we have 0 people, sometimes consecutively even. And we have days where we'll have a few people come through. So we try and at least shoot for 7 because right now our open houses are slower. Like right now we're 0 to pretty much 5 groups usually that come in. So we're not in a super busy market. And that's what I know a lot of people have asked me is like, oh, are you guys in a busy market for open houses? Not at all. Like not even close. So we were sitting open houses for another agent friend of ours that's from Los Angeles. They had a house listed in Palm Springs. And we're like, hey, we're sorry. We only had 1 group through today, or we didn't even have anyone through. And he's like, that's bizarre because we're having 15, 20 groups come through an open house in a day. So we're not having a ton of people, but we're still pulling deals out of it because of the conversations that we're having. And for the follow-up, it's just, so immediately it's the text or with the video. And then it's finding ways to really, so we're really breaking down what they told us in the open house, and we're sending listings. We're doing stuff where like, so like, say if they're really looking at 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses with a pool, it needs to have this amount of space in the backyard. And maybe these finishes, we'll send them a list of homes, and we'll continue to keep doing this. And we'll just make sure we break down every home that we're sending to them and saying, hey, I like this one for you based on our conversation on this. I don't like this though, based on this, and I can see why you may not like it. And I'll do that with each home. And then I'll ask them, hey, let me know your thoughts on each of them too. So that way I could then further understand. So that way next time I'm not sending you homes that you don't like. I don't want to send you 40 homes and you have to search them. I want to send you 3 homes, and then we go and take a look at the 3 homes. So that's my goal, is trying to just really just value, not like, hey, here's 40 homes. Take a look at all of them. Let me know what you think when you have some time. Go ahead and sift through all those. That's the easy way of doing it. Yeah. That's the easy way of doing it. If you go and like you send them 10 homes and you break down why you like and don't like each home for them based on the conversation you had with them in the open house, if you had a good enough conversation, then then they're like, they start to pick up on like, wow, this person's really listening and they're really proactive. They're not reactive. And that's what has completely changed for us. So, and if you, for some reason, don't get that much information from them, what we're doing is because obviously sometimes people will slip through the cracks. You may not get enough info of them, but you still get their phone number somehow. That's why we call the next day. We always call and ask people for feedback on the house, regardless if it's our listing or not, because it's a way to then understand, hey, what'd you hate about this house? Oh, we hated that it only had 3 bedrooms, or we hated that it backed up against a busy street. Okay, cool. So if I had found houses that had 4 bedrooms and didn't back up to a busy street, would that be something you'd be interested in? Well, yeah, of course. Then now you get to start to have a conversation about what they don't like and what they do like. And then now you can start doing it from that way. So you don't have to always secure it in the open house, but obviously I would recommend the open house much more than the feedback call.
Yeah, no, and I love that. And it's because you're giving yourself multiple ways to follow up with them and add value. You're also getting multiple ways to attract people, because the open house attendees is the obvious one. There's also the calling. Do you guys door knock at all? I wouldn't want to door knock in 100-degree heat either, but maybe you don't need to. You make the calls and you sit the open.
We just make the calls. I have some people on my team that door knock because they love to door knock. I'm usually at this point now, I'm rushing from one appointment to set up my open house lines to do the open house. So I just make sure I get the calls in. If you could do the door knocking on top of it, I can only imagine it would only benefit you more. If you could squeeze it in, you just won't be able to get through as many people. And that's why, at least for the efficiency of it, I do the calling. So, but that, and then the mix of the social media, like I live on my stories now. And that's what even like, it's funny. People will always talk about like, oh, you have to call your sphere all the time. Well, my whole sphere follows me on either Facebook or Instagram. And I post to both of those daily about everything I'm doing. And like, even today, I posted a thing. I'm like, is anyone else just like exhausted right now and not wanting to do anything? Like, I just talk about whatever I'm thinking or feeling inside my head, whether it's good, bad, or it's about an open house, whatever it is. So that way people understand who I am. And because of that, and they see that I'm constantly doing business through open houses, putting houses under contract, new listings, whatever it is, because I'm constantly posting, they know that we're busy, and they know that they could trust us because we're busy. So I would say it's the mix of everything. It's not even just like doing an open house and being great at the open house. It's you use the open house in so many different ways to be able to drive people through social media, through cold calling, through the open house. Maybe we have people that call us just on open house signs, and they never even come into the open house. And we're working with buyers based on that. So we have people that come in that are sellers, because a lot of times sellers don't like to come into open houses, on a weekend, because they don't want to bug. Well, if you sit at an open house 7 days in a row, guess who's going to come in? The sellers, because they're not going to feel like they're bugging anymore. They're like, we've seen this person out here for now 7 days. We could probably come in and take a peek. And then before you know it, you're having a conversation about them wanting to list their house. So there's so many different ways to derive value from an open house, and so many different ways to utilize it to pull in more leads, not just from the open houses. You just got to make sure you're doing everything all at once. And I think that's what really made our whole business explode is the mix of everything.
I love that. And quick question, because you mentioned it a few times already. Is that the standard you guys follow? If I'm gonna get permission to hold the house open, whether it's mine or somebody else's, you're gonna ask for 7 days of open houses. That's the standard, because that makes things way easier.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't
Yes.
have guessed that was effective, but
You don't do the same house, or you don't do different houses. So the reason why we do the same house is because neighbors and everyone start to recognize us. So like it was like, even like one example, this house I'm going to sit today, I've been sitting there for a few months now, and thank goodness it's not my listing and it's been on for a few months. So, but it's not mine. So when I first started sitting it, like I saw this neighbor and we would just give each other like a nice, like head nod. And then it started to turn into a wave. And now every time he's outside and I'm passing by him, I have to stop my car to start talking to this guy because he wants to have a full conversation. But it started with nothing. But because he sees me setting up my open house signs every single day, he now knows who I am.
Got it.
So it's just free branding and marketing for you to sit in the same place over and over. Everyone starts to recognize you. And then when you start to cold call, I cold call my whole area now, this whole entire part of town. And people are like, oh, you guys are the guys with the open house signs. That's what we're always recognized as.
We see you guys everywhere. We see you guys everywhere.
Yes.
I love it.
I have people, and then I have friends, family, other random people. They'll send me a pic on Instagram, like just of a picture, and all of a sudden I open it up and they're like, just saw your open house sign. So like you could tell like everyone's just seeing them all the time. So we try and sit in the same split, for sure the same area, and specifically the same house as much as possible, as long as it stays fruitful. So if it for some reason stops generating anything for us, then we'll switch it up. But we at least try and give it a week plus before we go and switch it up.
Oh wow! So you'll do a minimum 7 days with that property, and maybe even more. If people are still are coming there, why move?
I've been sitting in the same house, I think, since August 28th. If I check, I think I could check my log. I think it's August 28th, and I'm literally going there today. I'm going there at my open house at 3.
And it's been fruitful.
And it's because last night I brought a new buyer in.
Wow, that's awesome.
So as long as it stays fruitful, we'll continue to do it over and over again. And that's way easier than trying to find a new one every single day, 100%. And then also you just become even better at that house. You become even better at knowing that market because you're just sitting in that same area and you get used to who's coming in and what they're looking for.
Absolutely. And we got a question here from the audience. Thank you, Louis, for sending this in. Interesting question. I hadn't thought about this. Do you anticipate the weather? Do you check the weather report, or like, well, this is Indio, California, right? There's not going to be not a lot of hurricanes, not a lot of rainstorms.
The only thing
snowstorms.
So here's the thing. I really, honestly, I don't check the weather at all. I never know what the weather is. I just wear shorts and a polo every single day, no matter what time of the year it is. But if it's the only time I won't sit one is if I go outside and it's so windy, because it gets really windy out here sometimes, that I just know all my signs will blow over. If I know all my signs are going to blow over and all I could see is just a cloud of dust and nothing else, that's the only time I don't sit. If it's raining, I'll sit it. If any other condition, I'll sit it. If it's 120 degrees outside, we still sit it. The only time we don't is if it's too windy, because then our signs
sandstorm, basically, right? Like that Mission Impossible movie where the guy gets away, and it's not like that. If a bad guy from Mission Impossible can escape in the sandstorm, probably not a good day to set up your open house.
Yep.
Understood. Another question here, Peyson. The last 6 months, you guys your business has blown up. You found a really great way to generate leads. But I mean, let's not mince words here. The market's not been great the last 6 months. Okay. Let's just kind of say what it is. Interest rates nationally went from like the mid 6% to 8% in September, man. Like, I know a lot of agents that basically threw in the towel for the year in September because I'm not going to sell another home if interest rates are at 8%. So, I mean, the world is seemingly on fire around you. Things are not great. We're only going to sell 3.8 million homes in the country this year. I mean, How has that affected you, the shifting market, if at all? Because I mean, at least assuming you're getting some objections about it, it's coming up in conversation, anxiety about the market, anxiety about interest rates. How have you dealt with that? How have you dealt with that?
Or pretty much every conversation that comes up, interest rates comes up, or hey, housing. What about housing prices going down? There's all those conversations. So like, I mean, The objection with interest rates right now, what we're talking about is like, hey, have you guys heard of a seller credit? And we don't like to go after the 2-1 buy down too much. We like to go more after a permanent buy down, and we'll get the sellers to cover that. And pretty much every seller that we've made an offer on a house that's closed in the past 6 months, we've gotten a seller credit on it, up to 6%. So even in some cases, we're like, hey, like that's even one way we'll pull phone numbers from open houses. Like, hey, have you guys heard of a seller credit? No. Well, did you know you could get closing costs covered and potentially even a rate buy down, or do one or the other at least? No, I didn't know that. So like, yeah, we could get your interest rate possibly down a whole point, or we could cover $15,000, $20,000 in closing costs for you. Oh, that would be crazy. So then we start talking about it. So that's one way we could get around the interest rate thing, or if they don't have closing costs. In regards to the market overall, what we're talking to people about is the desert is one of the last places, at least in California, that's still more affordable. It's now getting on the, it's starting to get expensive, but it's way more affordable than everything else. And people are flooding out here from Orange County, San Diego, and the Bay Area, coming from super expensive markets. And we have Disney building their first community right now in Rancho Mirage. And what I tell people is like, do you think Disney would take a chance on our market if they really thought that the area was going to crash? Like, do you think they'd build this brand new arena that just came in with a hockey team, and then we have concerts every weekend that are packed out? Do you think all these things would be happening if the market was really going to go down, at least in this market? I don't know about across the grand scheme of the country, but at least in our desert, I don't see anything happening. If any, it may stay stagnant, it may stay stable for a couple years, but okay, that's fine. And how long do you plan on owning the house? Well, probably at least 10 plus years. Okay. Well, then there's no worry.
Problem solved.
So I would say that's the majority of conversations. Very little conversations actually are like, they're not worried about interest rates, or they're not worried about the housing market. Most are worried about it. And that's one of the reasons why we role play every morning, so that way everyone on the team knows how to handle those types of conversations. So that way we're not like, and you get stuck and then you end up losing that lead.
Yeah. I love that, and you're an area, again, great area, but it's not like Miami. It's just, I mean, I was looking at the stats for the market. The market's flat. I mean, the same amount of homes sold as last year. So flat market, right? The market didn't grow anything at all, over the last 12 months.
Right.
But it doesn't seem like your business was flat though, right? Payson's like, yeah, I think you guys did a lot better this year.
I went from 9 transactions. I think we'll finish 35 for the year.
Wow.
And I will account for 20. I think I'll account for 28 of the 35 or so.
Wow. Holy
so
cow.
I myself went from 9 to about 28.
Tripled. So you tripled, so you weren't flat, right? So I know people are like, oh, the market this, the market that. Market in India is a flatlining market for the last 12 months, 18 months because of the market. In fact, that's not bad, actually. A lot of markets are down, right? So it's a decent market, so to speak. Market didn't grow. There's probably less listings out there than there were a year ago. Sales are flat than they were from a year ago. And your business tripled from one year to the next.
Right.
It's not the market, actually. It is the approach. It is your ability to attract and find the motivated buyers and sellers.
The thing is like you said, so, okay, maybe I think usually 5 million people buy or sell within a year. This year is 3.8. Okay, there's still 3.8 million people buying and selling.
7 million sides, almost 8 million sides. How many do you want, right?
Yeah, like there's still people having to do things regardless. It's just going to be, okay, are you the real estate agent, or is someone else the real estate agent that's going to do the business? Because someone's going to do it. It's just deciding on if you're going to be the person doing it or if someone else is. And that's even something I had to really sit down and think about myself back in January of this year. Okay, do you want to be the person, or do you want someone else to be the person? So, and that's why if you're going out and you're constantly doing open houses, or you're at least just doing something every day to show people, hey, I'm not backing down just because the market sucks. People are going to come to you. They're going to trust you. They're going to want to work with you because you're doing stuff when other people aren't wanting to do anything right now.
I love that. And, Peyson, I'm glad you were transparent here with the audience, saying that, a few months ago, not that long ago, you were thinking of leaving the business, right? I think a lot of agents have had that moment over the last 12 months. And, you were able to pull yourself out from that, right? You saw someone else kind of killing it. How could that? Wait, hold on. How could we both be in the same market in the same time, right? It's like, what's going on? and you asked that question critically, and you said, okay, there's got to be something I should be doing to make myself successful. I think if agents surround themselves with negativity and convince themselves, this is when you're really done. Okay, this is when you're really finished in this business. You convince yourself that it's not about you. You're a victim of the Fed. Oh, the Fed screwed me over. Yeah, I was having a great year, man. But Jay Powell and company decided I shouldn't sell any more homes, so they raised interest rates from 7 to 8, and I'm done for the year.
Yep, that was exactly. So my problem exactly was I was at, and it's not, and I don't think it's anything that has to do with brokerages specifically. It just where I was at before, I didn't have it. Everyone was down. No one was doing anything. And then I was talking to some friends I have, the ones that they were up in January, and they're up even this year, this whole entire year. They're up the entire year. And every single one of them has grown their business by, I think, at least 50% this year. Every single one. And I was like, I'm hanging out with the wrong people. I'm talking to the wrong people. I need to be around those people. And so I literally, I hopped brokerages, and I don't think you have to always hop brokerages, but I was at a small one before. And so I didn't have too many people to really lean on. I instantly moved. I'm like, I need to surround myself with better people. And that's all I've done since. And because of that, even on days where I may feel like I'm not as excited or amped up, I go and I then look at their posts, and they're like, we just closed 620 transactions this year. And I'm like, what the heck? I need to go do more. Like I just sold 300 million in volume this year. Okay, well, I need to do more. Like, so I'm constantly now surrounding myself with great people and that's been, I would say, and I mean, that's been the biggest difference maker. It's just like proof of concept, seeing other people do things especially when you possibly think that it's not, or when you think it's not possible.
I love that because, and that's the game, as an entrepreneur, as a salesperson, as a business owner. I mean, you got to hack your own mindset. Like, what motivates you? What gets you out of the rut? Because if you don't figure that out, you're going to do what most people do. You're going to stay in the rut. I mean, you can stay there and you're out of the business. You're back to a 9 to 5. And again, some people have done that this year. And again, empathy. I understand. There's a lot of circumstances out there. Not every story is the same. All things being equal, though, we convince ourselves that we're not going to be successful. All things being equal, man. I really believe that. We convince ourselves, we lose that argument with ourselves that anything that we do can impact the end result, and we become these macroeconomists of doom. Be a macroeconomist of like, hey, things are going to go. We're talking about real estate in the United States of America, man. I mean, is there any better investment over the last century? I mean, so be a macroeconomist in that sense. Don't be the macroeconomist that is predicting the next market crash because you're so smart. That's just not the right way. If you're going to hack your mindset, do it in a positive way. And Peyson, we've talked about the big wins, the conversions, the kudos. I'm sure there's been some ups and downs, especially in those first 100 days, right? I mean, tell us about that. I mean, I'm 3 days in a row, no one showed up, right? You didn't get any of those leads. It wasn't always a hot week, right?
We have slumps. I've had slumps where a whole week I don't get people. So, and it still continued. Like even Monday, I had no one come in. I was annoyed over it, even though I've dealt with it a million times now. I was like, man, I haven't had anyone come in. And like we've had pockets where it's completely slowed down. And like my lender's like, hey, like what's changed? Like, why are you guys not sending more people this way? And it's because the people stopped coming in for a minute, or we weren't able to convert people. So there's big ups and downs in it. And the thing is, but that's where it's just all about the consistency, because you never know what day someone's going to walk in and be the person that you need, that wants to go and get pre-approved right away and starts looking at homes. And every single day that I'm like, all right, maybe I shouldn't do an open house today, that's usually the day where someone comes in that's ready to do something. Like every single day where I'm like, I should just cancel it for today. I should just relax and I should just take 1 day to myself. I should just take 1 day to myself. I decide not to, because I know that if I do that, I'm missing out on someone potentially coming in. And that's usually the day that someone will come in and then they'll want to go and get pre-approved with us. And it may take a few weeks even sometimes in that scenario, but it's just always about the consistency. I think that's literally all it is, because people keep asking like, what's the best day? I don't know the best day, to be completely honest with you. If you look at our stats, every single day, we've had just as many people come in at one point, Monday all the way through Sunday. And every single day too, we've had 0 people come in at one point. So I don't know. Like, I really don't know. I can't read on to what other people are thinking when they're looking at the open house signs or Zillow. So why not just sit every single day, use it as an on-site sales office, still do your other work, use your phone as a hotspot, and crank out calls or work on other contracts that you have going on. Whatever it is, there's something that you could always be doing, even if you're sitting in an open house that's dead. So, I mean, for new builds, they sit in an office all day and wait till people come in, and it's pretty much an open house. Why don't we just do the same damn thing?
I love that, and you're 100% correct. So, Peyson, thank you so much, man. You know, I still have a bunch more questions, but you know what? I want to be respectful of the time. I know you're busy. You got to go to the next open house and keep that machine rolling. Appreciate you, man. You're a practitioner.
Of course.
It's been a great conversation. Thanks for coming in. If people want to reach out to you, right, learn more about what it is you're doing, continue the conversation, what is the best way to do that?
Instagram or Facebook for sure. If you look me up, it's Peyson, Peyson .Robertson. I probably will be the only person that pops up because of my name. I always now joke and say my parents, when they gave me my name, they thought of SEO for me. So because it's made it so much easier. Solved. Yeah, I don't have to worry about it. So Peyson.Robertson. Feel free to reach out. Any questions you have, if they want my open house checklist that we use, more than happy to send it over because it's been super helpful for us. And we're just, I mean, now at this point, we're just looking to grow and surround ourselves with more people that want to do big things like what we're doing and just hit the ground running and be smart about it and continue to do it. So that's all we're looking to do.
I love that. You know, I love that because it's such a scalable model, man. It is like such a scalable model. And I think a lot of folks, when they look for models, like lead generation models that are scalable, it's hard to beat prospecting. It's very hard. And I see open houses as a I don't know if you see it that way. It's a prospecting activity. They're kind of inbound
exactly
leads. They're kind of inbound, right? They're kind of, but you know, no context. They have no idea who you are in that sense. So, you know, it's kind of an inbound lead. I see it as a prospecting activity. You got to approach it like a prospecting activity. You got to pound that phone. And you know, they owe you nothing. Like, it's up to you to show them, you know, how you can help and how you can add immediate value. So I love that. It is such a scalable way. I think you're going to do amazingly well. 2023 was just the beginning. I think you're going to blow up as a team and as a producer in 2024, man. And, you know, I'd love to have you back next year and go, hey,
absolutely.
How did, you know, 365 open houses in 365 days? How'd that go? You know, from right now. So awesome, man. Appreciate you, Peyson. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a good one.